All right. This is from Alex Jones and InfoWars. I think a lot of this is going on. We just don't know about it. So I like this point on this.
Triggering a hot civil war in this country. Now, their planetary government plan is falling apart everywhere as we speak, and we'll break it down today. But regardless, they're doing like tyrants always do, cracking down with the iron fist in an attempt to dominate and control populations. That, added together with the different factors we see with population and with the environment, is a chain reaction recipe for disaster. And I don't want that disaster to happen. But there are individuals like George Soros, who's in the news, has said some very important things at Davos that we need to be aware of. So we'll have that video of Soros at Davos coming up as well, where he said it's time to crash the Chinese economy to bring down their authoritarianism. Now, he's been saying bet heavily on China for decades. He said bet heavily on Facebook and Twitter until a year ago when he began preparing a short for it.
Now, this is very interesting because Soros was betting heavily on Facebook and other social groups and betting heavy on China. And now he's preparing shorts for Facebook and other social groups and preparing for a financial collapse in China.
So the fact that Soros is now saying China can easily be brought down with economic warfare, which is true, he's saying it because he knows Trump is winning and that just a year or two of decent policies, just the beginning of those policies towards communist China, has already brought it to its knees in many levels. The flip side is, though, they're going to probably try to divert with some military action. But the fact that Soros has now come out at Davos in the closing hours of it yesterday and said that China is a great menace with their tyranny and their internet censorship and their Internet of Things and their global social score, and that the whole planet will fall to them if we don't bring them down, which is actually true. But why would he be saying that? Because he knows the momentum is in that direction, and then he's there giving this dinner talk to the other billionaires, and they're all getting the signal to pile on because old Soros smells blood. So thought I'd mention that first before I get into more detail on it, because you have Maduro, the horrible, bug-eyed, mindless, low IQ dictator who inherited power from Hugo Chavez, who was not low IQ, very crafty, very manipulative. And pretty soon you run out of other people's money. And so now he's signaling that he will have new elections. He's signaling that he wants the pressure taken off because the people have risen up in mass. So we have that area. Also, Macron. They're into the 12th, 13th week of the yellow vest. Now that the police have shot people with real bullets, the French are only getting more aggressive. They're not like the Islamic hordes that just burn cars and rape women. They're actually targeting leftist operations, government facilities.
I find this interesting that the French are really coming on strong and that they're actually going after leftist groups and want this Macron out here regardless of what it takes. We're talking about 11 straight weeks of rioting in the streets.
Red light cameras, infrastructure. And a lot of leftists and globalists have been falling down and hitting their heads. Some people have been, I read about it, they've been finding some globalists hanging themselves. I have no idea who would do something like that, but just, people are starting to kill. And they're doing it in targeted ways. And so that's where this is going. And Macron thought if he went out and shot a bunch of people with rubber bullets and then real bullets and blew some women's eyes out and had some armored vehicles run people over with EU insignia on them driven by foreign troops, that the French would go back to groveling, when it's actually the opposite. The French weren't scared. The French were in love with themselves and lazy. And now that you've pissed all over them, their spirit has been awakened. And they chant everywhere he goes in French, banker boy and puppet of the banks, banker baby, banker boy, puppet of the banks. We have video on Infowars.com in French. He says, no, I'm one of you. No, he's actually a Rothschild operative on record. He's been working with them since he was 16 years old, and he is banker boy. So that's up on the Russians. Asked the U.S. not to have any military intervention, but threaten their own. The U.S. calls on the world to pick a side on Venezuela's fate. It's all coming up, but it just shows you, as we begin the broadcast here today, that the project of authoritarianism, of the authoritarian nanny state EU, is in shambles. Every analyst out there admits they'll never put it back together again. Because once the public understood that it was set up by the Nazis, a Nazi plan, and that it's unelected at the top, and that it sets the rules to destroy the nation state and transfer the wealth out of the country, why in the hell would anyone, right-wing or left-wing, want to be involved in that? And the final missing ingredient, from England to Scotland to Ireland to France to Germany to Spain to Sweden to Denmark to Italy to Brazil to Reykjavik, Iceland, everywhere, is that the socialists are now realizing, the grassroots socialists, that all that pension fund money they've been putting in for 20, 30 years, and the nanny state that only a rich Europe could create and actually sustain, that the only nanny states that had any chance of ever working are being purposely dynamited and stolen. And so you're seeing the true fascism of the whole Soros combine added with the radical Islamicists and others. And you're figuring out that you've been targeted for destruction, not just the Christian Western power you were taught and bred to hate, taught to hate yourself. So people are discovering self-preservation again. So that's coming up. Also, Democrats are newly emboldened on gun control. The Atlantic reports breathlessly and say they have the votes to ban all semi-autos in the House. Oh, see? Obviously, Roger Stone will be joining us from his home. Owen Schroyer is there. We have some big breaking news in the second hour about the canary in the coal mine as they begin to move on Trump. Also, we first told you about this a few months ago and been beating the drum. President Pelosi, now that's mainstream headlines. We've got the leader of the Black Caucus and others saying she's really the president. We're going to remove Trump and put her in. And then, oh, guess what? She can appoint her vice president. Oh, Hillary. Next month's news today. Black Caucus chair, Pelosi should give State of the Union since she's running the country. And even though Trump gave in until he declares an emergency on the shutdown because it was killing the economy, and Democrats didn't care, she says, you know, you don't need to have that right now. I'm the supreme leader. So they're getting people ready for that, just getting you ready that she's the president. Here's all the headlines here. President Pelosi, House Speaker, holds public bill signings to compete with Trump. Black Caucus chair, she's really the president. Pelosi still has no plan for State of the Union, even with government open. She said, I'll tell you when you get that. I'll tell you when you have that, Mac. So that's all coming up today.
Let me tell you, Pelosi's not going to last much longer. I don't care what they try to push down our throats as stupid-ass media. It's not going to go very far. Trump won't put up with it too much longer, and she's going to be put in her place permanently. And the dismantling of the Democratic Party is coming. It is Roger Martin from Village, Montana. Good day.